I'd like to look at some more examples of using sum and difference formulas. On this one, consider find the sine of 285 degrees. Well, this one is in degree measure already, so we don't have that problem. However, 285 degrees, we need a reference angle for that, or at least we need to know where that's located. And so on this particular problem, what I'll do is I'll take 360 degrees and I'll subtract the 285 from that. Okay, and if I do that, I end up with 75 degrees. So let's draw a picture of kind of what we're looking at here. Okay, 285 degrees is, we know, past the 270 mark, so it'll be over here. And we have a reference angle in here of 75 degrees. Well, we need to rewrite 285 degrees as either a sum or a difference. What we can actually do is we're actually first going to think about 285 degrees if we rotate around counterclockwise in the positive direction as being actually the same as 75 degrees but rotated clockwise, and so it would be negative 75. So one thing to do is when you have big angles, see if you can rewrite that big angle as a smaller negative angle. This will work sometimes. So we can actually rewrite the sine of 285 degrees as the sine of negative 75 degrees because 285 and negative 75 degrees are coterminal angles. So that's going to be our first step on this particular problem. There's more than one way to work these, but we'd have to start somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite our problem down below. So what I have is I have now the sine of negative 75 degrees. Okay, this particular value being smaller means it's easier to rewrite as either a sum or a difference. Okay, one possible sum or difference would be this. We could rewrite this as sine of negative 30 degrees and then minus 45 degrees. You do have to be a little bit careful on these particular kind of problems. We're writing this as a difference. The 30 is negative, the 45 degrees is positive. Okay, so in this particular problem, I'm going to use actually a difference formula to rewrite this. Okay, I'm going to erase what I had down below. I need a little bit more room. And so on here, I will be using the difference formula for sine. The difference formula for sine says that I want to use sine of negative 30 degrees multiplied. Here, remember, we have a mixture by cosine of positive 45 degrees. Okay, the sign in the middle is different, so this sign is the same thing. And then we have a mixture on this side, but it's a different order. We use cosine of negative 30 degrees, and then multiplied by sine of 45 degrees. Like I say, there's more than one way to look at this. I've just chosen one way that this will work. Okay, from here, I need two triangles. Be careful here because we have one of them needing to be a negative angle measure. So on the side, I'll draw two triangles. One of them I'll need a negative 30-degree angle. A negative 30-degree angle would end up down here in quadrant 4. So there's negative 30 degrees. The sides will still be labeled. This will be square root of 3. This would be negative 1, and then this would be 2. I need another triangle. I need 45 degrees. I'm familiar with that one by now. 1, 1, square root of 2. Alright, sine of negative 30 degrees is y over r. The y value is negative 1, so we'll have negative 1 over r, which is 2. Cosine of 45 degrees. We know by now that's 1 over the square root of 2. Minus cosine of negative 30 degrees. That's x over r. So we'll have square root of 3 over 2. Sine of 45 degrees. That's 1 over the square root of 2 from looking at our picture. Alright, from here I need to multiply my fractions, so I'll have negative 1 over 2 roots of 2 minus square root of 3 over 2 roots of 2. Combine these two fractions, I'll have negative 1 minus the square root of 3 over 2 roots of 2. And then finally I need to rationalize by multiplying by the square root of 2. Be sure to distribute on the top. And so this will become negative square root of 2 minus square root of 6 all over 2 times 2. And a lot of times here at the end, if you have both terms in the numerator containing a negative, you will actually factor that negative sign out into the very front of the fraction. In other words, there'd be a negative in the front. Factoring the negative out of both of the top two terms would result in a positive root of 2 and a positive root of 6. And then this would all be over 4. But you have the negative sign in the front negating both of the terms in the numerator. So this would be your final answer. I would also like to look at another problem. It's a little bit backwards from the examples that we've been looking at, but I want to make sure to do it so that we understand what to do in these kind of situations. Okay, this example is going to say actually find the value. So let's see what we have here. Find the value of cosine of 40 degrees multiplied by cosine of 80 degrees and then minus sine of 40 degrees times sine of 80 degrees. In this situation, what you actually see is you see that you have the right-hand side of one of our sum and difference formulas. This is the right side of the sum formula for cosine. Alright, the reason that I know that is I see that there's terms multiplied, mixed together. I see that actually the first two terms are cosines by themselves, the second two terms are sines by themselves, and in the middle I see a difference. Well, I recognize that as actually the right-hand side for this formula, cosine of the sum of my two angles. And so by recognizing this as the right-hand side, I can rewrite what I was originally given into one more compact looking cosine function. Then I can add 40 degrees and 80 degrees, and I'll have cosine here of 120 degrees. Now, I know how to compute the cosine of 120 degrees, because if I draw where 120 degrees is, I see that in here I have a reference angle of 60 degrees, and I know how to label that triangle in quadrant 2. So I can label the sides -1, square root of 3, and 2, and then I know that cosine is equal to x over r, so I end up with -1/2. This is an example of using my sum and difference formulas backwards, and you do need to be careful. They will ask you some of these kind of questions.